McCarthy has officially won the bid for GOP Speaker with 188 to 31, but he's 30 votes shy of what he needs to become the Speaker on the floor in January. Okay? There it is. Going to be a really interesting dynamic within the Republican Party with the Tea Party going crazy. Let's take a look at what Ted Cruz has to say about that.
I mean, thinking about the red wave that never manifested is causing a lot of
Trigger warning, Ted Cruz.
reaction, including from Senator Ted Cruz, who is pointing the finger at the likes of Senator Mitch McConnell. Listen to what he says about being, well, his words, truly pissed off.
Let me start off by saying,
again, I issued a trigger warning already. It's your fault.
I cannot even see straight. The country is screwed for the next 4 years because of this. Mitch would rather be leader than have a Republican majority. If there's a Republican who can win, who's not going to support Mitch, the truth.
Bro, if you don't have Ted in the flesh, like, you don't have to put a photo of him up. You know what I'm saying? I think going forward, you know how, like, all these websites have style guides? Like, one style guide, suggestion I will make to CNN and everyone else is that, like, if you don't have Ted Cruz in there, like, if you don't need to show his face, I just wouldn't. I just, like, blur it.
The truth of the matter is he'd rather the Democrat win.
Do you agree with him or not, Doug?
No, this is an argument that you've had in certain parts of conservative circles for a few years. And Jim DeMint, when he left the Senate to go to the Heritage Foundation, and he was right that he could be more powerful outside the Senate than in it, said, I'd rather have 30 real conservatives than a Republican majority. Well, Republican majority is committee chairs, and it's how you pass things through the Senate or through the House, for that matter. Having those 30 conservative senators is nice, but it doesn't get you what you need to pass things through. And ultimately, McConnell was right here when he said we have a problem with the quality of our candidates, and that was true in the House and the Senate, you know, and the governor's races. And Kerry Lake should be an example for Republicans now of what not to do. Don't tell your voters to get the hell out of the party, because they're going to do that.
You know, one thing about the idea of who might have been right or maybe vindicated in a subtle way here is Congresswoman Liz Cheney, right, who has made a great deal of discussions and points about the idea of trying to reclaim the Republican Party. Listen to what she had to say when she was speaking at the University of Chicago just a few days ago about what Republicans, she said, need to do.
Do you feel like there's a stiff enough spine in the party to stand up against future insurrections, or are we worried about January 6th, 2025?
No, we definitely need stiffer spines. I mean,
I'm always thinking, like, for the future of the Republican Party, when I think about the future of the Republican Party, I'm always thinking about the biggest fucking loser. You know? Let's go to the biggest fucking loser in the Republican Party, Liz Cheney, fattest L, okay? Like, why the fuck? Oh, my God.
I mean, that's for sure. And I think that elected officials need to understand that words matter. And when you sort of see again and again and again people accepting things that are indefensible, you know, we watch what happens in our society, and when you accept things that you shouldn't, when you tolerate things like January 6th, then that can very easily become the new normal. Then it begins to be legal. And I think that's a big danger for us.
I mean, it's kind of funny, Ashley, to see her sort of lurking in the shadows there, because in many ways, her shadow was cast on these elections as somebody who even supported Democrats in some instances because she wanted people to understand about democracy being on the line. But her point is, Republicans need to have stiffer spines in order to even compete in the future election. You talk about the long game a lot. Do they need stiffer spines, and do they actually have it?
I don't know if Republicans have it or not. I do think.
I love mobile chatters, bro. Missile has hit Poland. This is an attack on NATO. Bro, we moved on from that, brother. We moved on from that for now, okay? Polish chatters signing off from a fucking toaster. Breaking.
They need to condemn Donald Trump across the board. I think the reason why you're seeing this split is because there's still 30% of Republicans that support Donald Trump. The election deniers did not win this election, but they did. Some of them didn't get blown out. You mentioned we're a week out and we were waiting for every single ballot to be counted because there was still a significant amount of people in Arizona who thought Carrie Lake should be the governor. And I think that's what Liz Cheney is speaking to. I agree. I don't think anyone, like when the court says no, 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 you did not win and you don't have legal recourse, but we cannot make it commonplace where election deniers can still thrive and be actual candidates, because when they are, let's rewind a year or so ago, we have people like the cyber ninjas wasting taxpayer dollars running these sham fraudulent audits that we know didn't actually need to happen, and the results still stayed the same. So I don't know if Republicans will have a stiff enough spine to say no to Donald Trump. We'll see tomorrow after this announcement.
I mean, if he announces, right? And part of the issue, I mean, the idea of having a spine, Alex, in these issues here and instances is it really is contingent on whether the so-called leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, will vie to be the next president yet again. And just listen to this. You had a number of people who've been saying just today alone that Trump is bad for the party, from Governor Baker to Larry Hogan. Listen to this.
I think one of the messages from the election is, for Republicans generally, is we need as a party to move past President Trump.
It's basically the third election in a row that Donald Trump has cost us the race, and it's like, 3 strikes, you're out.
I think what Republicans came to grips with Tuesday night was we're tired of losing and we're tired of Donald Trump dread.
I think one of the funniest parts of like this conversation one of the funniest parts about this conversation is whenever motherfuckers are like, bro, Trump is the main guy, he's the bad guy, DeSantis is the good guy. It's like everything Ron DeSantis has done that has made him popular in the National Republican Party is quite literally the same shit Donald Trump has done when he was the president. Like, you can't say one guy is good and the other guy's bad. Like, at least Rick Scott has, like, genuine differences in politics, or not even politics, but, like, even in the way that he carries himself, which is, by the way, unbearable. Like, he's just openly running on Republican policies like austerity measures and melting the poor and murdering old people and like taking away their Social Security, right? Like, but the difference between DeSantis and Donald Trump is not all that different. It's not different at all, as a matter of fact. Like, how do you not see that DeSantis' popularity came from shipping migrants, trafficking migrants in the Martha's Vineyard, doing the fucking voter fraud brigades, where he like rearrested random felons who did not know that they could not vote, or the Don't Say Gay bill. Like, he's the libs of TikTok guy. Okay, this idea that like Ron DeSantis is somehow different than like the Mr. Culture War, and is not Mr. Culture War, but he's like winning, he's getting results. So therefore, he must be different than Donald Trump somehow, is stupid. That's it. He canceled Disney. Yeah, exactly. He's just like a more competent Trump, but that also kind of takes away some of his charisma. Trump is kind of a fucking dickhead, but his dickhead-like mentality reads as honesty to other dickheads on the ground who end up voting. You see what I'm saying?
Dragging us to lose because of his personal vanity.
President Trump had to insert himself. There's a very high correlation between MAGA candidates and big losses, or at least dramatically underperforming.
I mean, but having said that, will the Republican Party quit Trump?
Well, what all four of those men have in common is that they're not facing Republican primary voters again anytime soon, right? Maybe Larry Hogan will run for president in 2024, and we'll see how
A kind of
that
liquid
argument
courage for them
goes.
then.
But yeah, I mean, Charlie Baker declined to run for re-election rather than face a Trump-endorsed primary challenger, and that cost the GOP really badly in Massachusetts. Laura, I think the voices that it's worth really watching out for are the Republicans who got reelected this month without playing the Trump game, right? So someone like Brian Kemp in Georgia, Trump made it his personal mission to destroy him because he didn't try to overturn the 2020 election. And first, Brian Kemp demolished David Perdue.
Bro, this is why China will win, okay? How do you compete with that? How do you compete with Chinese ingenuity? How do you compete with the Chinese will? Okay, Chinese grit? How? You can't. It's over. It's done. We're done. Okay, America is no longer number one. Americans used to do things like this. Americans used to chain smoke cigarettes. Okay? Someone in the chat said he's 22. America used to build things, okay? It's done. It's over, dude. It's fucking over. Banned by the Olympic Committee for PED usage.
About infrastructure.
Pass a $1 trillion infrastructure plan.
Who's better at infrastructure than Trump?
We're going to rebuild the crumbling infrastructure. I want to rebuild our infrastructure first.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Infrastructure.
Not a bad fucking ad. I mean, he did do that. He did like, send an infrastructure bill. Signed it.
Infrastructure. 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 Infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That'll get people libbed up for sure. Meanwhile, nobody wants to talk about how China is lapping us.
In the Republican primary for governor, and then he beat Stacey Abrams by a very solid margin in the general election. Does somebody like him speak up and say, I know how to win, I've done it better than Donald Trump, and it's time for the party to move on? He hasn't said that kind of thing yet.
But he doesn't. He has no idea. He doesn't know how to win. Bro, what the fuck? Trump actually has one. Jeb Bush was also the fucking governor of Florida. Look how well he performed in the nationals during the primaries, during the Republican primaries against Trump. Like winning the governor of Florida, especially when Florida looks the way it does. Florida has a built-in migration pattern that is somehow refeeding the dying demographic that is constantly withering away, right, of steady right-wing voters. Florida is one of those states that just straight up has that, okay? It's called retirement homes. Winning in that state, winning the governor's race in that state is not, is not an indication that you can win a national campaign.
And I do think that's the kind of voice, Mike DeWine in Ohio, Greg Abbott in Texas. If you started hearing from people who were, frankly, closer to the center of the Republican Party rather than the center of the country, which is where Charlie Baker is, then I think that would send a pretty powerful message to Republican voters.
ABC News exclusive.
Oh, man. David Muir talked to Michael Pence, dude. That's crazy. Oh, what will happen there? Okay. Here, let's I'm not going to do Elon Watch yet. Here is Josh Hawley, another Elizabeth Warren for the Republican Party type talking.
I think that this election was the funeral for the Republican Party as we know it. The Republican Party, as we have known it, is dead. And voters have made that clear. And in particular, the folks who did not vote for Republicans in this last election were independent voters, working class independent voters, folks who voted for President Obama, once upon a time, folks who then voted for President Trump but stayed home this time. We are not a majority party unless we can appeal to those voters.
I'm going to keep it $1.50. Okay? The Democratic Party has untapped demographics that they have not fucking, invited to come out and vote. Haven't given them a good enough reason to, and haven't made it easier, like cleared the institutional hurdles for the working poor and young people to go out and vote. The Republicans, on the other hand, are running out of the last piece of the fucking base that they have. Okay? It's crazy. Like, the only reason why this isn't like a fucking 75 plus Democrat all across the board country is quite literally that. Because of Democratic malfeasance. Like, when you look at all of the voters that don't go out and vote, okay, overwhelmingly poor, overwhelmingly young. These are populations that are straight up like plus fucking 25 minimum Democratic Party voters. And the Democrats aren't even doing enough to fucking activate them. They're not doing enough to clear their structural hurdles to go out and vote. Okay? A lot of red 18 to 20-year-olds, to be honest. Okay, man, I'm not talking about your fucking anecdotes, okay? I'm talking about statistics. Like, it doesn't matter what you think and what's going on. When I say plus 25 minimum, that's gigantic, okay? Even if that means that, yes, there are still some people that are, going out and voting for the Republican Party and the working poor, of course, that aren't voting right now. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, you win because you have the majority. Do you think Fox forgot Trump on this 13 potential presidents graphic deliberately?
Potential contenders, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Mike Pompeo, who we just had on, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. The list goes on.
Mid. No shot. Absolutely no shot. Close but no cigar. No, but like also could be kind of interesting. 0% chance. Close but no cigar. No. This is the likely one. Like, look at this fucking lineup, dude. God damn. I don't even want to see the Democratic Party's lineup because it's also stacked to the fucking, it's filled to the motherfucking brim with losers.
So, with the Democrats taking the Senate, they're now going to move ahead with a vote on a gay marriage bill. Now, what is the purpose of a gay marriage bill? There is no purpose to a gay marriage bill. Obergefell has already been ruled upon.
Yeah, no, totally, dude. Yeah, because like the abortion thing didn't happen like recently. You know what I mean?
And a simple gay marriage bill is not even a constitutional amendment. So it's not even above and beyond the Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court ruling is still the law. If the Supreme Court ruling were overturned, a quick majority in the Senate could quickly overturn this law. Okay, but the idea here is that you're going to get all the Republicans on record as to whether they support or do not support same-sex marriage. Now, let me just put this out there for the Republican senators. If you vote in favor of the idea that society has an obligation to recognize male-male or female-female dyads in the same way that society has an obligation to recognize male-female, you should not be in the Republican Party.
Yeah, this is a winning message, dude. I love that. I love Ben Shapiro. Last week, this motherfucker was saying, like, we need to focus on policy. Trump lost everybody because he was too me. And he cared too much about culture war issues. It's like, bro, what are you doing? This is what I mean. This is what I'm saying, dude. People are like, I'm hungry, okay? Gas is expensive. And Ben's like, we need to make sure that like gay people, are in a state of disarray. Okay, that the Supreme Court could like rule on Obergefell like they did with Roe v. Wade. That's crazy to me. That is crazy. If he was smart, he would just turn this around and be like, every Republican, doesn't matter which way they fucking vote, every Republican should be out there talking about what their methods of dealing with inflation is. Say this gay shit is a distraction. At least back in the day, they were like smart enough to say that. Republicans would like always say, oh, the gay stuff, that's a distraction. Why are we even voting on that? That's a distraction.
You shouldn't. Okay, the reason I say this is not because I wish to shrink the size of the Republican Party. Because if the fundamental basis of human society is male, female, child,
Inherent problem. Here's the inherent problem with this man literally was complaining that Trump wasn't appealing enough to moderates last week, and now he's saying this. Here's the inherent problem with the Republican culture war. Here's the inherent problem with the Republican culture war. That's just it. That's good enough. Did I forget the? I don't even care. I'm too lazy to correct myself. Shut up.
The same way that society has an obligation to recognize male, female, you should not be in the Republican Party. You shouldn't. Okay, the reason I say this is not because I wish to shrink the size of the Republican Party. Because if the fundamental basis of human society is male, female, child, and you think that by passing a law you can change that reality, you do not belong in government.
For the record, if that law didn't, that law is not going to change reality. Reality is going to happen regardless of what Ben thinks, okay? That law is just going to make it more normal for a lot of people, okay? That law is going to offer comfort to millions of Americans that don't have to feel like their civil liberties will be taken away on a moment's notice by a fucking Supreme Court that they didn't even vote for, okay? That's it. That's literally it. It is so unrelated to the existence of human beings. Like, it is so innocuous. It's just nothing, right? He wants to make a bigger deal out of that because he thinks that's a winning political message. He's wrong. They refuse to understand, like, bro, you lost the gay shit, okay? They're everywhere, brother. You know, I hate it too, brother. Don't worry. But they're everywhere. You lost. Hold this fucking L on that, okay? He wouldn't be chirping this hard if that normalization didn't actually lead. That normalization didn't actually like lead to more people being more understanding. That's why he's fucking fighting this war.
This is a very simple proposition. Men and men are not the same as a man and a woman who are capable of becoming one flesh and producing a child. This is not difficult stuff. Many Republicans will be tempted to vote for this simply to avoid the conflict.
Yeah, bro. Like, for example, if your balls don't work or if you got no ovaries, right? Like, you're not technically recognized as a marriage, as a real marriage. Like, you could be cis, right? But if you got no fucking semen in there, if it's not working, you get a vasectomy, dude. The moment you get a vasectomy, the government comes in and says your marriage is null and void. That's how it works. It's not difficult stuff. Hypothetically, let's say, a marriage is between a man that is working on the pool and my wife as I watch. Hypothetically speaking, that is how I have gone about my marriage personally. Let's say hypothetically. Hypothetically speaking, I can't have kids. Therefore, my marriage is null and void.
So that people don't yell at them. Oh my gosh, you're not respecting love is love. Now, first of all, the love is love argument was always bullcrap.
Love is love. Hypothetically, love is not love. Like, for example, my wife does not love me.
And obviously the vice president puts himself in there too.
Okay.